It's Illini Inquirer After Dark. Welcome into the Illini Inquirer podcast. Jeremy Werner and Derek Piper getting in on the post-game action here as we got a busy weekend in Illinois sports. And tonight we got our first look at the Illinois basketball team at the State Farm Center. Got to see some new guys in action. And there's some real bright spots from that. Of course, hard to take away a lot of big things from this, Derek, as Illinois defeats an NAIA team. That is hard to say. Ottawa. No, not from Canada. They're from Kansas. 116-65. Joey Biggs, Illinois Director of Basketball Operations, has connections at Ottawa. But Illinois comes out to a huge lead early, 19-4. Luke Goody gets going. Marcus Domask gets going. And then they really run away in the middle 10 minutes of this game. The last 5-10 minutes of the first half, first 5 minutes of the second half. The Illinois starters just blitz Ottawa, as you would expect, Derek. So do we have any hot takes? Like, do we take away that Illinois is going to make 14 threes a game? Do we take away that the offense is fixed? Do you have any huge fiery takes after this
one? Marcus Domask, all conference. It's got a chance. It's got a chance. If we're trying to make a take, I think that's one that I might be all right with. But again,
I'm with you, Derek. My biggest takeaway from this is Marcus Domask was a great addition. I think you and I were fans of what he could bring to this team, but seeing it in action, because we didn't see any video from Spain, we haven't really seen practice with him in it. But now to actually see him operate, we knew he was a good player in the Missouri Valley, great player in the Missouri Valley. But to see him play with Shannon Hawkins, I think Ty Rogers, right? Like, he just makes everybody better. He can score from multiple places on the court, but he can really pass. He really gets after it on the glass. Defensively, I don't think he'll be great, but I think like Luke Goody, he can kind of be serviceable, but he just makes everybody better. And I think his teammates are going to love playing for him, and I think Brad Underwood's going to love coaching him.
He's a really good basketball player. And, yeah, I know we were kind of joking at one point during the game that I remember in his recruitment, they bring him in for a visit, and Illinois looks like they're about to land him. And some people are like, how does he translate to the high major level? He's maybe not the big splash get and everything, but he's, in hindsight, really what this team needed, at least address some needs that certainly popped up after last year when you think about some of the basketball IQ, unselfishness, just making some of those heady veteran plays, and got an ability to shoot it. And beyond just being a talented scorer, which you put up 1,600 points plus at SIU, you can inevitably do that. But a top 5 assist guy in the league in Missouri Valley last season, and 6 assists tonight. He's a really talented passer. He sees the floor, he anticipates. There's a clip out there right now. I retweeted it of when Coleman hits that pick and pop 3. Ty Rogers comes off the pick. Coleman pops back out. Coleman makes it, so you didn't really need it. But Marcus, nice cut down the lane. He's open if Coleman, for whatever reason, gets closed out on, doesn't want it. That's just a field play. That's a field play, a veteran play. This team didn't have a lot of that last year, and I think Marcus is going to bring that dynamic. And, yes, the competition, we won't wear ourselves out by continuing to mention this, but It's not great. They're supposed to look really, really good in this game. But I loved what I saw from Marcus Domask, and I can see why I heard a lot of buzz about him recently. I wrote about that earlier this week. He looked great.
He's a connector, Derek. And if there's one thing this team definitely was not at times last year, it was connected. And Coleman Hawkins looked like he was having a blast. Like, he just having another really high IQ player out there. I thought Coleman Hawkins looked free. And I think it really unlocked Coleman kind of as that pick and pop guy, but the ball just kept moving. And listen, I think Matthew Meyer was instrumental for last year's team, but the ball stopped with him, right? And I think that kind of impacted some other guys, where I think everyone's going to love playing with Marcus Domask. So I just thought he was definitely a standout in this game. But 26 assists from this team, I thought stood out. Again, the competition, I don't want to have to use that every time from here moving on, Derek, but 26 assists, 8 guys with multiple assists tonight. This team will move the ball. Now, can they shoot the ball consistently? That's another question. We still got to get answered when they get better opponents. They were 7-17 from 3 in the first half. That was encouraging. They were 7-25 in the second half. They really started to chuck it late. Goody started to chuck it late. Gary A. started to chuck it late. Dre Gibbs-Allhorn likes to get him up, but he was encouraging. We'll get to the freshman here in a little bit. But the ball moved better tonight. And I thought Brad Underwood starting Ty Rogers with 4 shooters around him, Goody, Domask, Hawkins, Shannon, that looked good. Like if you're going to play Ty Rodgers at the point guard, those are the guys that have to be around him.
I like that lineup for sure with the shooting, the fact that obviously Domask and Hawkins provide some secondary playmaking that takes some of the pressure off of Ty. And I was interested to see what that offense is going to look like in terms of how they're trying to get their looks and everything. And I know Brad has said that they don't have everything in terms of scheme and whatnot, but it wasn't, high rep ball screen with Ty. It was different guys getting opportunities to make plays. They were setting screens for Terrence Shannon, getting him downhill. No one could stop him tonight. He was a freight train, which he should be, obviously, against this team and a lot of other teams. Marcus having the chance to play out of ball screens and just a guy that can play within the flow of an offense and make those reads and passes. But, yeah, they shared it well. They had at this stage, you're going to get Kansas, who I was looking at KenPom. They're supposed to be the top rated defense in the country. So we'll see what that offense looks like against them when you got some guys.
Even with Hunter Dickinson.
Yeah, man.
That's saying something.
Right.
Kevin McCullar's pretty good, yeah.
Kevin McCullar. DeJuan Harris is the reigning defensive player of the year in the Big 12. When you get guys, in your shirt and matching your athleticism, denying passing lanes, that will get tougher. And that's where the cohesion of this team is going to have to, of course, mature, and that's where maybe your first read's not there, and you gotta get your second. But tonight, the ball, I just appreciated the approach of moving the ball, having a flow to your offense. The ball didn't really stick a ton, and you didn't have Coleman like yelling out, "Hey, you guys got to move and cut and come screen for me, like do something." There wasn't a lot of that. So 1 game sample size looked pretty good, and Brad's gonna be happy with those assist numbers.
Yeah, and you got to love what you got from Coleman tonight. 10 points, 5 rebounds, 5 steals. He was really active. Terrence Shannon looked like he wanted to kill somebody out there tonight. I was like getting scared he was going to hurt himself. He was just on the floor so much tonight with how aggressive he was in driving the basketball. And he was 6 of 6 from 2. Like there's just Ottawa had no chance against a guy like Terrence Shannon. But he only played 15 minutes, which that was a good thing for Illinois. But let's dive a little bit into some of the other newcomers we saw, especially that second unit, Derek. What did you make of the point guard play tonight? Ty Rodgers, 3 points, 2 points, 3 assists, 1 turnover, 8 rebounds. Dre Gibbs-Lawhorn scored a lot late, 15 points, 3 assists, 3 turnovers. And then you had Nicola Moretti, 1 of 4 from the field, 2 points, but 4 assists to 1 turnover. What'd you make of the point guard play, which is obviously a huge concern for this team?
Ty's got to be better at the free throw line, first and foremost. I know you're 0 for 3. It's a small sample, but a guy that out for last year, 39% at the line, you want to see for someone that can be really physical downhill, being able to make that shot a little bit more consistently. Mentioned that pick and pop play. I loved it. I love that, Ty, kind of makes that over the head pass, and it's a good read and gets the ball out of his hands quick. Coleman makes that shot. I think if Coleman's able to make that at a decent clip, of course, that really makes a great dynamic. Ty's downhill ability, you got the gravity of having to come out and guard that, and that's a really nice compliment. I said it earlier, I didn't feel like that they leaned too heavy on Ty. I think that they allowed some other guys to do some playmaking and some creation within the offense. So I thought he was all right. I didn't think he was great by any means. But then again, I don't think this was maybe tailor-made to just live and die with Ty. Maybe that's one of the takeaways to come out of it, is that you can still run offense without a point guard being the engine for every possession.
I think that's what it is, Derek. This is going to be a run the offense by committee team. This is not Ty Rodgers has the ball all the time and he's initiating everything. Coleman Hawkins looked like the point guard half the time tonight, right? And that's a good thing. Marcus Domask creating for people. We know Terrence can create for himself. And then you bring in guys like Justin Harmon can be a secondary ball handler, creator. Dre Gibbs-Lawhorn, obviously. I'm still skeptical of the Nicola Moretti because I don't know if Brad Underwood's going to want to do that defensively. We'll see how that looks against Kansas, but I agree. I don't know if that's a winning strategy, but I don't think it's all on Ty's shoulders. Like I don't think that's the way we should look at this. I agree with you. That's kind of what my takeaway is tonight. Is this is more just a create offense by committee, and with Domask and Hawkins and Terrence, you kind of have the roster to be able to maybe do that.
Yeah. I think one of the more consistent things about this half-court offense was, especially when you were playing either Coleman at the 5 or Amani at the 5, it's that big man coming out in the high post and kind of using him as like an offensive hub and get some handoff action, some rubs, and that's kind of really getting that big man extended away from the paint, which of course I'm sure they're going to try to do with Hunter Dickinson, and that can put some guys in a bind when you do have those skilled big men that you of course need them to be able to pop out and shoot it. But to your point, I think that it is having some of those skilled secondary playmakers. I liked what Harmon showed tonight. I think he's a guy that maybe will factor in more when we talk about quote unquote, even if he's not a quote unquote point guard, just kind of a guy that can make some plays with the ball in his hands. But Moretti, I'm with you. I still need to see more. I know that Brad told us after the game, and I asked about, what'd you think of Nico and Draven, that Moretti's looked really good running the team, and he did get the first call in terms of the backup point guard. He was in that first sub in. Draven didn't come in until later. He's not the best athlete. He's still noticeably pretty slender. I don't know how he's going to defend. He didn't defend great in Spain. Draven took a lot of shots. He was very aggressive, made some mistakes with the ball and some turnovers. And I know that Brad got on him for some early clock heaves that he took, but it's one of those that, that's not really that unexpected. He's going to have some moments that are freshman like, but he's very talented.
I think the way we got to think about this offense is their initial thing is they want to get going in the fast break, and Terrence, Justin Harmon, Ty Rodgers, even Coleman can run that. But half court, Ty can run a little bit of it, but I think it's going to run a lot through. I mean, think of Domask, who is Brad compared him to. His boy is Stephen F. Austin, right? Yep. And then Coleman does the same kind of thing. So, I think that's kind of maybe the way we should look at it. Let's talk about those freshmen. Derek, Dre Gibbs-Lawhorn ends the game with 15 points, but Amani Hansberry, man, can he find a way to a roll? Like Quincy Guerrier, we know what he is. If I looked at you and I said, is Quincy Guerrier their eighth man? Like that's ridiculous depth. If that guy's your eighth man, a guy who was all ACC second team, I believe, as a sophomore at Syracuse. So that's a good thing. Sincere Harris plays 11 minutes tonight. So the depth on this team is really, really good. But Amani Hansberry comes in and 14 points, 12 rebounds. They didn't run a play for him, Derek. He was just ridiculously active on the glass. Can he do that against a Big Ten team with more length and size? I don't know, but that energy, that effort, you've seen that on the AAU circuit, right? So that's not – those weren't cheap things. That's not out of the blue things from Amani Hansberry. We saw him do this in Spain too.
No, yeah, he's done that kind of stuff. You go back to Peach Jam, and he's going up against guys that are 5 stars, high 4 stars. That's the reason why he jumps from being an outside the top 100 guy to landing in that top 50 range. And tonight you're not facing legit rim protection and top-notch athleticism. I think that's one thing that you look at him, kind of a low-to-the-ground athlete, a guy that's not going to really explode off the ground, and about 6'7", 6'8" at the most. So finishing around the basket is something he's going to have to be continuing to develop with, and I think that's going to come with more strength, and that will be a challenge maybe against some more length and height and just older guys. But the way he plays, I mean, obviously Brad loves it. His effort is off the charts. I mean, he's a guy that the guy wearing the glasses for Ottawa that kind of was a Orange Crush favorite. They were rooting for him to score. He tries to take a casual corner three late in the game, and Amani just swats it out of bounds. There's like a minute left. They're up 50. And that just shows like Amani is so competitive, and his motor's always on. And that's just the type of dude that he is. I think I love who he's going to be down the road. It is the question, is he going to get enough minutes this year? And people are going to wonder about that. I think he's going to push some guys. I've heard he's pushed Quincy in practice a decent amount this fall. And to be honest with you, I've projected Quincy. I thought Quincy would be a starter. We'll see what ultimately happens. I think that's obviously a credit to Goody for being able to jump over him or be in that mix where Quincy's coming off the bench. But if anybody's slacking, if anybody's in a little bit of a rut or not giving the type of effort and energy, Amani's going to push. And I think that's something that Brad's going to know, that the effort's going to be off the charts when Amani's in.
That's what I kind of like about this team, Derek. Angelo asked about why Sincere Harris didn't get a lot of run tonight. I mean, 11 minutes. Everybody played like 11 to 20 minutes tonight. But if these guys don't play well, there's competition. Like there is a competition for spots. Like Coleman Hawkins, Terrence Shannon, Marcus Domask, I would say Ty Rodgers and Dane Danger. We know what those guys are going to be, but those other 5 spots, Like there's competition. Like Dre Gibbs-Allhorn, Nico Moretti got the first run tonight. Like maybe you got to play a little bit better. Dane Danger and Quincy Guerrier. If you don't give the effort that Brett Underwood wants, we know Amani Hansberry will, right? So I think that's a really good thing. Sincere Harris, if you don't up your game a little bit, we got Justin Harmon right here. So obviously you're building for multiple seasons. You want these guys to stick around. You're always wondering about that stuff, Derek, but you got to win and you got to build a culture. And I think that's what this season is a lot about, kind of reestablishing that with Brad Underwood. And I think his top three guys, along with Ty Rodgers, and I put Domask in that top three guys, but in Ty Rodgers and Luke Goody, those starters we saw tonight, I think they have a great chance of resetting that culture of what Brad Underwood wants. Like I got a text from somebody tonight saying, man, with Goody and Shannon, Hawkins and Domask and Rodgers on the court, like there's just a lot of steadiness potentially in that starting lineup that I think Brad Underwood's going to enjoy this season.
Absolutely. Yeah. And as far as the depth goes, I mean, it's early and obviously there's nothing going to be finalized but off of one exhibition game. And Brad's going to look at a lot of different stuff, different lineups, different guys against Kansas as well, and then start to determine, what's that rotation look like going into the season. But I think internal competition is great. The opportunity to continue just to battle it out as the year goes on and kind of have the hierarchy sort itself out through the season. You hope that guys don't take it super personal when maybe they get passed up by a certain guy on a certain night. And I do think for Sincere in particular, like Justin Harmon coming in is a big deal to fight against him for minutes. Justin's a lot more experienced, a lot more offensively capable at this stage. So I think that's the thing that kind of hurts Sincere. We know Sincere, if Brad doesn't feel like the pop is there defensively, if he's trying to flip a switch and get some turnovers, whatever it may be, you can go to Sincere for that. So I think that's kind of the great thing about this team is that just there are different kind of calling cards for these different players and different options that Brad can kind of play with. And it wasn't Sincere's best game. He took some threes that I don't think he necessarily in a tight game that counts. You really want him taking those shots. He's open in tonight and probably doesn't matter too much, but that's kind of how I see it with Justin is Justin's just got more experience, more offensive game to him, but we do know Sincere brings some known things to the table too.
Yeah, I was going to say Sincere's that option. Like you can always just, if you need that spark, you can go to him. Like as long as everybody's bought in, like if they, like you wrote about this week, they all say the right things about the standard and wanting to win. Well, now you got to go prove it. I think Chester Frazier said that, right? Like now it's easy to say that, but then you got to live it. So if they're all bought into this, like Sincere Harris might play 5 minutes one night, but then they might need him to turn a game like he did against UCLA and Texas and all these other games. Northwestern, I believe, was one of them too. So he can still play a huge role on this team, even if it's not maybe as many minutes as you wanted. All right, let's get to a few of these questions from Isaac Ambrose, a great producer. Biggest takeaway from the win? We kind of discussed this, Derek, but I'm going to go with Domask is just unquestionably the biggest impact addition they've made of the offseason. I think his teammates and his coaches are going to love him.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. He's really good. He's really, really good. We've seen guys come from smaller leagues. I mean, there's an all-conference guy in Tyson Walker who's from Northeastern. So, I mean, this stuff happens, and maybe Illinois landed one that's going to really move the needle a decent amount. There's a lot of opportunity for him to make a big impact for this team, and early indications have been good, and that was a great start for him tonight.
Biggest concern after tonight, I'm going micro here on one little stat on one guy's stat line. It's Ty Rodgers 0 for 3 from the free throw line. He wasn't really close with any of them.
Yeah, no, I was going to say the team, you look at 12 for 21, I think at the line is something you look at for sure. Probably took too many threes. You take 40 plus. I don't think you'll probably see that, against Kansas or anything, but on a night where you probably didn't have too much to point to for negatives, free throw shooting is probably the easiest one.
Yeah. Any surprises with the rotation or minutes tonight?
I was a little surprised by the starting lineup, admittedly. I'm not saying it shocks me as you kind of think about it. I like it in terms of the conceptually of putting as many shooters. Domask and Goody are probably your best catch and shoot guys on the team, and putting those around Ty and really open up the floor. I knew Terrence would be out there, knew Coleman. I expected Domask. I've kind of thought that Guerrier might be the 4 that goes with Coleman at the 5, and I'm not saying that can't happen, but that maybe was a little bit of something I wouldn't have expected. And then Nico coming in that early. I'm not saying that I've heard that they like what he's done offensively and the feel for the game that he has. And maybe it kind of makes sense a little bit with Dre, maybe that he's going to be more in that scoring mode while Nico's more in that kind of set the table mode. But there is definitely competition between those two to see who's going to be the first guy that Brad will bring in as the backup point guard.
I never really thought about Domask and Goody in the same lineup. Maybe I should have, because when you have Ty Rodgers, you're not small, right? You can still defend with Shannon, Rodgers, Hawkins. That's a huge lineup. I mean, look, Goody's 6'7" and plays good team defense. Marcus Domask 6'6", plays good team defense. So those guys probably get the worst offensive players that you have, or the least dynamic offensive players. And then Ty Rodgers can body up a 4 if you need him to, right? Terrence Shannon can body up a point guard if you need him to. So it's a really interesting lineup that I'm interested to see how that goes out. Maybe at some point you got to get some more size in there, or more athleticism. I don't know, but I liked that from Brad Underwood. I thought that was a really interesting starting lineup that makes a lot of sense, and I feel dumb not ever thinking about it, Derek.
No, I'm with you. Yeah, it was cool to see Marcus and Goody play off each other early. I thought those guys, both, guys that have really good feel for the game and obviously can stretch the floor. And Marcus has an offensive rebound and feeds it to Goody, and Goody hits a nice little baseline pull up, and Goody hits a skip pass to Marcus for a corner 3. Those guys with their shot making, and I like it. I like it for sure. And at the goal here, and we didn't really see. That's one thing. Maybe I was surprised we didn't see any booty ball with Ty Rodgers. We really didn't for the most part. But if you're going to do that, I like that lineup to provide the spacing that would make that effective.
New player you're most excited about this season? I think we've discussed Marcus Domask at length enough here tonight, but I do want to hit back on Justin Harmon. When we saw the first practice, I kind of looked at you and he's kind of standing in the corner. What's his role going to be on this team? Because Dre Gibbs-Allhorn seemed like he was really turning it on at that point in practice. We saw Ty Rodgers at point guard, and I was like, I'm interested to see where Harmon fits in. I just think having a high floor guard off the bench that can score, that wants to win, is gritty. I mean, he kind of has an awkward finish tonight, but he finished it at the rim, and then he made a couple open threes. Like, if he can be a 6 to 9 point a game scorer off the bench, that's huge for this team that, otherwise you're counting on Dre Gibbs-Allhorn a lot, and you're hoping Sincere Harris can take a step forward offensively, which I don't know if he's ready for that. So to have that guy off the bench, I think is someone in our chat said, if he's your 8th or 9th guy, that's a really good thing.
Yeah. I mean, in Spain, really the only thing he didn't do was shoot the 3 well. His stat line was really consistent. They're in about 10 points, 5 rebounds, a couple assists per game. And yeah, I think during the summer, him showing up late, having to finish up some coursework there, Utah Valley, probably put him in a situation where he's trying to feel things out. But I do like his physicality. It does look like, obviously, when he decides to go into the lane, he can handle some contact. Especially, I think he's most comfortable when it's kind of a fast pace up and down, and he kind of can see those driving lanes. I'm not going to say he's Andres Feliz, who obviously thrived in that, but
do it.
Sorry. But no,
sacrilege.
I just think he's got a steadiness to him that a veteran brings, and he's really gritty and active defensively too. So I think that his best day isn't going to look like Dre Gibbs-Allhorn's best day, because Draven's just got crazy quick twitch and bounce, and obviously when he's filling it up, it's dynamic. But the up and down nature of a freshman and just kind of his game is different than where Harmon gives you a steadiness that you could really use.
I feel good for Dre Gibbs-Allhorn that I don't think there's going to be as much pressure on him as there was for Jaden Epps midway through the year last year.
Yes.
And Jaden, I think, is going to have a very good career at Georgetown. We saw what he did in the scrimmage, but I think that was a lot for Jaden Epps, and I thought it was probably too much too soon, and it's out of his control. And he had some really good games, right? You think back to some of those games, Iowa, he was fantastic. But I just think Dre Gibbs-Allhorn is going to be allowed to, not have that much weight on him. But boy, he's confident. He's a confident guy. He's going to get his shots up. And to be honest with you, this team might need that at some point. We think Terrence is that guy. You think you can run offense through Coleman Hawkins and Marcus Domask, but At some point, you need a punch off the bench. Maybe Harmon can be that, but Dre Gibbs-Allhorn has as high of a ceiling as a bucket getter as anybody really on this roster outside of Terrence Shannon.
Right. Yeah. And Brad mentioned tonight, it kind of reminds him a little bit of that young Trent Frazier coming in, where he was just wired to score coming out of high school. And Trent was thrown in the fire early, and of course had some really nice moments as a freshman. But Draven can kind of sit back and learn a little bit more and not feel that pressure, that heat, like you said, of Jaden last year. And of course, he's going to be hungry to get out on the court and someone that has high expectations for himself. But I just think it's going to be part of the learning process for him. He's just got to pick up some of the more finer details of seeing the court and learning what not to do in terms of turnovers and shots to take. I thought when he went to the rim, that was a really good thing for him, because he is athletic. He can draw fouls. He showed a nice little floater in the lane. Sometimes when he was settling a little bit from the outside, and he's been a little inconsistent throughout the course of his high school career from deep. When he's got it going, he's lethal, but that's something that he's continuing to work on. But I have no doubt in my mind there are going to be nights where he really, really provides a shot in the arm for you, and maybe it clicks where he finds consistency. At this point, it's not there, but that's kind of a common ground for freshmen to be in at this point.
Anything notable from Underwood or the players' post-game interviews? Marcus Domask was basically just saying, I want to win. I want to win. Got that vibe from Amani Hansberry as well. I asked Marcus about what Amani can bring to the team this year, and he's like, man, what is he, 17? And I was like, he just turned 19. But Marcus gave a real long answer about he just does what, like to help the team. He does what he wants to do. So it's early. It's preseason. They just crushed an NAIA team. Still can't say that. But that was positive to hear it. But those guys were great to talk to. Like, I really enjoy talking to those guys. I think they're gonna be good for us in the media here for a little bit. But I think Underwood likes this team. I think he likes what this team is capable of, and I think I don't know what their ceiling is, Derek, because of the point guard issues, because of the 3-point shooting, but I think it's going to be a consistent team. More consistent team.
The vibes are good. My column tomorrow. I'm just kidding. But they are good for right now. We'll see. Will
the players quote tweet you about that?
Yeah, we'll see about that. But a lot of ranked teams that are facing an NAIA school should look like that. But there's no doubt. It's easy to kind of maybe dog on Matthew Meyer and look, you're not making the tournament without him and needed him in a lot of games. But there is a difference in what I think Marcus's mentality is coming in here. And to sit, he sits up there tonight and says, I want to be a leader. We never heard that ever out of Matthew Meyer. And just in general, not to just to point the finger at him.
Terrence says he wasn't a leader last year. Terrence is like, I have regrets. I didn't do anything as a leader, and it led to the Brad Underwood fart noise, like all of that. They just didn't have that last year. And just the way they've talked. Yes, it's talk. It's talk is cheap, as we see on the message boards every day, Derek, about any story we write in the preseason. I get it, but it is a different kind of talk. And listen, I thought Matthew Meyer was entertaining last year, on the court, off the court. He was huge for this team that needed offense.
Needed it.
But, I think the guys around that are here now, and it's not just Matthew Meyer, right? It was not just Matthew Meyer last year. I just think that team learned a lot. I think Coleman learned a lot. I think Terrence learned a lot. I think Ty, watching that happen, knowing he is a future leader, I think he learned a lot from all of that. And now they added pieces that complement him really well. Sans one important position. And that important position might hold them back ultimately. But I do think it's going to lead to a steadier team that gels a little bit more.
For sure. Yeah, I just think you said it. I think that guys are going to want to play with Marcus Domask. I think he's going to be someone that makes other people around him better. And he's a great team player that's going to make a lot of winning plays. All
right, last one. Andrew asks, any recruits in the building tonight? Oh, there were, Derek. Two really good ones.
Some you might have heard of. Yeah, one, Merez Johnson, and another, Jeremiah Fears, two guys that were out in Colorado together at the USA Junior National Team Training Camp earlier this month. And this is a huge official visit. I wrote my visit primer up for the site on Jeremiah Fears, and breaking down his game. Lights go out.
Turn the lights off on us.
Breaking down his game and, kind of what Illinois has done right in their recruitment so far. And, what challenges there are lying ahead potentially as you look at the competition turning up. So are we at a concert? This is pretty cool, I think. But speaking of Jeremiah, he was actually shooting out on the court a little bit as we started this podcast. So he's in town for the weekend. I caught up with him. I talked to his dad a little bit. And I also talked to Merez, who made it a point that, Jeremiah's a really important guy for us to recruit, and I'm doing my job to go after him. So look for follow-up stories on IlliniInquirer.com.
I'm looking forward to it. As they turn the lights off on us, it's our time to go, Derek. But Merez Johnson, has he played his way into a 5-star? That is, anyone who has watched him has come away loving Merez Johnson. And kudos to the Illini staff for making him an early priority. But he has been fantastic at every level he has been at, no matter the competition, Derek. So he's been committed for so long, 2 years now, and he's still a year away from playing. But that dude is everything Brad Underwood wants in a player. And maybe I'll have questions about fit with Danger and Amani and Merez. All of that you got to figure out at some point. You got to get shooters around those guys, but Ty Rogers in there too. But those are dogs like that. Yeah. Those are guys that are just winners.
Yeah, definitely. Merez, I think with rankings sometimes, and I know that we do this at 24/7, kind of project towards the NBA, and I think that's something that might hold Merez back a little bit in terms of the 5-star because he doesn't have the outside shot yet. He has flashed a little bit more skill within the last year, which I think is encouraging. The ability to kind of face up and rip drive. He has taken a couple of mid-range jumpers, and I just think his touch around the basket, both hands, and just kind of his bag offensively has grown. So he was dominant at Peach Jam. He went up against all the top big guys in the country and was the most productive player out of anybody in the front court in that class for sure. So I think he should be very much legitimately considered for a 5-star, legitimately considered for a McDonald's All-American nomination and selection. So that's up to the guys making the rankings. But I'm a big fan of his.
I feel good about our Diabate comp early on in that one. Just what he brings, and he might have more motor. Diabate was bigger, but the motor on Merez is just insane for a guy who's been as talented as long as he has.
A little more physicality, a little more dog, but athletically, very similar profiles.
Yeah. All right, they're shutting off the lights. It is time for us to go.
It's like one of our kids are controlling this, man. Mine might not be tall enough. They're like, they're messing with us.
Derek, you got a vibe for the game tomorrow? I think both of us picked against Illinois. We got to see it one more time. That's what we're thinking right now.
I went back and forth so many times. I was like, I want to pick Illinois. I really do.
If they get kind of run game, offensive line play again, I think they win. I just have questions about that.
Yeah, it is offensively. I don't have the full trust yet. I've been encouraged by the defense for the most part. And the fact that I don't think that Wisconsin will be able to hurt you too much to the passing game. Braylon Allen's really good. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know. Nothing would surprise me. Neither. I think it will be a tightly contested game, and this is a huge opportunity. Like it was a week ago that we were talking that season might be lost and momentum and recruiting and everything. You win back-to-back games against Maryland, Wisconsin, you're in a nice spot for sure. So I can't wait. Can't wait to see it.
Yeah, if you can get to an off week at 4-4 with Indiana and Northwestern at home, winnable game at Minnesota. If you can score 15 points at Iowa, you might have a chance. Yeah, it'd be a much different feeling around the program, and I think it'd be a huge kudos to Brett Bielema and his staff if they could do it. But if you got to do it back to back, you got to string some wins together, and we'll see if they're capable of doing that.
I think one other note, real quick. I think it's also interesting. Wisconsin seems annoyed by Illinois. Like at least the fan base does. Like you
sure are, yeah.
Like the fact of Brett being there and Leonard, and I saw on our fellow 24/7 site that the players are saying it's personal, and I know it was kind of described a little bit of as a quote unquote rivalry. Which if Wisconsin is saying that about you,
how far they have come, Derek.
You've done something really, really well here. So
how far has Illinois come that Wisconsin basketball is now annoyed by Illinois, and Illinois has owned the series here recently, and that Illinois football, who lost 20 straight years to Wisconsin, basically, is now annoyed by Illinois football. It means you matter. Like, we got to worry about this game again. That's a good sign. But if you can win, this would be the first time they win back-to-back against Wisconsin if they do it tomorrow in 20 years. I was a freshman in high school the last time Illinois won back-to-back games against Wisconsin. It's been a long time.
It's crazy. Crazy.
Derek Piper, thank you, buddy. Thank you to everyone watching on the live YouTube channel. Appreciate you. Give us a like on the way out. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notifications bell as well. Thank you to all of you listening on the podcast as well. Give us a rating and review wherever you get your podcasts. And Joey Wagner and I will do this after dark tomorrow with Illinois football taking on Wisconsin. We'll have all your reaction there. Derek will have his takeaways. As he said, man, he's been busy here lately. He's got Jeremiah Fears and Merez Johnson content coming as well. So everybody have a great night. Take care of each other. And we'll talk to you next time right here on the Illini Inquirer podcast.